Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the film Journey 2, which was a sort of sequel to the Brendan Fraser Journey to the Center of the Earth, which was a horrible movie. The only character to actually translate from the first film to this film is the son, Sean. Um, and he's grown up, and now he is uh, no longer looking for his father because his father's gone. Um, but he is looking into finding his grandfather, who was played by the inimitable Michael Caine, which is really quite wonderful. I love Michael Caine. It's hard not to love Michael Caine. Now, going into this, I wasn't expecting a great deal. I'd heard, I think it might have been on Tumblr, someone said they thought it was a decent film. It was better than the first one, and I agree, it was better than the first one. Then it's got Dwayne Johnson, and it's hard not to like Dwayne Johnson. He's just a lovable kind of dude. Um, so I went in again not expecting much. And this was the adventure to Mysterious Island, which I was first introduced to in the film version, the first film version that I ever saw, which was a color version, and it was they had the giant fightless bird and the giant crab and Captain Nemo, the whole 9 yards, and it was very enjoyable. I actually don't think I have that one on DVD. I need to get it. I would love to find one with commentary on it. That would just be fabulous. Um, I did Harryhausen do the special effects for that? I'm not positive, but regardless, they were good, and I enjoyed them when I was a kid and I first found it. And the last time I saw it, when I was older, I still enjoyed it. And this, I had the same problem with this film as I had with the Brendan Fraser Journey to the Center of the Earth. If you set this film in the 19th century, because it was written in the 19th century, you create a bubble that protects you from the expectations of the modern era. You don't expect it to adhere to modern scientific thought. It's set in the past, the story is in the past, so I am, and most viewers can easily just kind of ignore, hand wave away all the inconsistencies from the way the world actually works because we could say, oh, isn't that quaint? They didn't know any better. Even if the film was made in the modern era, so long as you put it into that protective bubble of the fictitious, magical, steampunky Victorian era that never really existed, it's it's okay. You can ignore all the faults. But when you translate all this stuff to the modern era, and the Journey to the Center of the Earth was set in the 21st century, and this is set in the 21st century, when you do that, things get ugly. You can't have a world that is portrayed in the Mysterious Island in our world. You can't have giant creatures. You just can't. Now you can have miniature creatures, and they have adorable miniature elephants, which would be great because John Green would just be all over that. He's always wanted a puppy-sized elephant, and they have puppy-sized elephants in this world, which I thought was pretty cool as well. Um, though I'm not sure how they survive in a world with, you know, insects the size of wolves and lions and rhinos, but they do. Um, the problem is that insects don't function at that level. This is the real world, folks. It's not living in that protective bubble of the fictitious fantasy 19th century. It's our world. And insects can only get to a certain size with gravitational pull, the gravity effect of Earth, and our oxygen content. You can actually have larger insects even under a 1G environment if you have a higher oxygen content than, say, for example, they did in the past, and insects who were larger. But you're still limited by what size they can be, and they can't be the size that they are in this film. Just, just not going to happen. The giant centipedes they had in this, which I think were like in the 3 or 4 foot range, you could actually have had those, and we did have them. but again, the oxygen content was much higher in the atmosphere, so that was a doable thing because insects don't have lungs. The air just kind of moves through their body from holes in the sides. Um, you can't have giant birds because the wing to mass ratio is much different the larger you go. You don't get just darty little things that are good at hunting bees. You end up having things that are big and slow and flat, really slow. They don't get fast wind beats. You can't at that size. They talk about islands raising and lowering vertically on a 140-year cycle. How they came to that, I'm not sure. How they expected it to work, I'm not sure. Because none of the life on that island would have evolved in a 140-year cycle. It would have been a barren rock. Yes, the ruins of Atlantis may still be on this island, but they would just be ruins in a barren rock. There's no way, for example, that Sean's grandfather would have been capable to build that treehouse he had all by his lonesome. Wouldn't happen. Nor would he have things like curtains and stuff for privacy because he's there alone. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. So there are lots of things in this film that defy physics and reality and logic. They find the Nautilus, which is, first of all, tiny. The Nautilus was a large vessel designed to take on warships. The one they depict in this film could not have done that, nor would it have had a crew large enough to accomplish some of the things the crew was said to have accomplished in this world. And the sub was underwater, completely underwater, for 140 years, still sealed, free of water, and started right up. It baffles me how they just kind of hand waved this away, and they were somehow magically able to operate the ship. Dwayne Johnson's character was in the Navy, so I don't know how to run a steam engine, but I do know how to run a car, and that's about the similarity between being in the modern Navy and operating a 19th century fantasy sub that was way too small to actually be the Nautilus. So yeah, it made no sense. It was fun in on the level that Dwayne Johnson's entertaining to watch, and all the other and Luis Guzman is a charmer. He's awesome. I really liked the dynamic between those two actors. Very well done. Mr. Guzman, very rarely, I've never seen him put in a bad performance ever. Ever have I seen him put a bad performance in. And in fact, in the film The Limey, he is absolutely superb. Wonderful character. So it was fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. It just made no sense whatsoever. And again, it has to make sense when you place it in the real world of the 21st century. You are allowed some wiggle room. You are not allowed as much wiggle room as this film gives it. We're supposed to give it. I can't do it. I'm gonna call it on what it is. It's like 2012. I can't let that slide. And I think this film, Junior and Dirty 2, had to have been 3D. There were lots of scenes that would have only made sense if they had actually been in 3D. The first one was in 3D as well, so it wouldn't be surprised if this one was too. And I've heard they've announced they're going to be making Journey 3, which is going to be from the Earth to the Moon, which is going to be even dumber because, we've been there. We know what the moon is, and it isn't the fantasy moon of the 19th century that Verne wrote about. Set it in the 19th century, folks. You could have so much fun with that. So much fun. Set it in the fantasy of Verne's world. Stop trying to shoehorn it into the modern era. Okay, I'm done. And I need to move. Andrich is annoying me. So I hope you folks have enjoyed the first two films, and maybe the third one will be entertaining. I know I won't go see it in the theater. I'll pick it up cheap like I did both of these. I think I paid $2 for Journey to the Center of the Earth, and I paid $3.74 for Journey 2, and I bought that one new. So, Tell me what you thought about them. Can you hand wave away all that stupidity, or would you prefer if they'd stuck it in the protective bubble of a fictitious fantasy Victoria era?